So hello everyone, welcome. This is our Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM live webinar. I'm Challis, and I'm obviously going to be your host for this short event this morning. Just before we make a start, some very quick housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a little bit of time to take any questions that you guys have. If you have any questions as we're going through the webinar, you should find there's a question and answer Q&A button in the webinar window. So if you want to click on that button and then write down your question, and then as I said, we'll come back to do some questions and answers towards the end, and obviously we'll try to get through as many of your questions as possible. So we've got 30 minutes allocated to the webinar, so let's get going and hopefully get you to your meeting on time. So yeah, the first slide I'm going to show you here, just a couple of slides before we get into the demo, but really just to set the scene. The first slide here, as you can see, is really a call that security operations needs to change. And these are really the three main areas, so cloud adoption, threat landscape, and alert fatigue, where we really believe the greatest need for change is being driven from. So first of all, digital transformation, or essentially moving our workloads or application workloads to the cloud. So Sumo Logic does an annual report of the state of security operations, so some of the statistics I'm going to give you here come from that, and some of the others, the business related ones, come from a McKinsey report. But from both of these reports, what we're learning is that the cloud spending or migration of applications to the cloud is growing at 6 times the pace of general IT spending. And 3 out of 4 security teams are agreeing that moving workloads to the cloud are generating many more security alerts than the previous on-premise environments. And the reality is that legacy SIEMs were never built for the cloud, and they're creating a number of visibility gaps that organizations are struggling to close. And the reality, as I said, is that these legacy SIEM tools were never built for the cloud, and so they struggle to give you the visibility into not only cloud workloads, but also a lot of the cloud access models that you need as part of security operations. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, along with this, the fact that we're moving all of these applications to the cloud it's shifting the threat landscape. So 67% of security professionals that we surveyed said that the shift in workload is increasing the number of security alerts they're having to deal with. The reality of cloud applications is that a very simple misconfiguration can lead to quite a major data breach. That's the first thing. The second thing is, as we're obviously moving applications to the cloud, the attack surface is changing. It's exploding in many ways, as well as we add many more types of devices, IoT, mobile devices, to access these applications. And so that again is creating a great challenge for security operations. And then the final thing is that the reality of the threat landscape is that most organizations are facing many more so-called zero-day threats. Ransomware is continuing, unfortunately, to rise. As we've seen recently, governments are forming task forces. It's become such a serious problem that they're forming these task forces to try and tackle the continuing ransomware problem. And then the so-called advanced persistent threats continue to evolve and be an ever-increasing challenge. The third thing is that, and this is probably the largest point from a product perspective, is that security operations, the reality of it is it's no longer a human scale problem. So again, 83% of the security teams that we spoke to reported that their teams were suffering from so-called alert fatigue. So this is really the the consequence of tier 1 alert triage. And 3/4 of those teams have determined that they need to hire more people, 3 or more analysts, in order to tackle this ever-increasing load within security operations. So yeah, as I said, we believe really that this alert triage is no longer a human problem, and it's something that we should be applying to technology to solve. So let's move on. One thing that we're actually doing, I get asked frequently, well, what do you guys mean by a modern SOC? And we have an event coming up on June the 8th and 9th. It's a virtual event. It's going to be part training, partly obviously Sumo Logic employees. It's partly going to be our partners and other subject matter experts. But we're bringing these guys all together over this 2-day period, really to help not only discuss, but also share our ideas around what we believe a modern SOC should be. So obviously you guys are welcome to come along and attend that event. The types of things that we're going to be talking about are these things that you see on the screen here. This is what we really believe a modern SOC needs. So first of all is what we call insights. So we have these automated insights. So they're a way of collecting together related detections, signals that we call them, and aggregating them to make it easier for analysts to understand, and most importantly of all, to essentially automate the whole tier 1 alert triage process. So rather than having to go through alert triage, you can get straight into incident response or threat hunting based on the information that you're going to see in these insights. We're going to show you some of those insights in just a second. The second aspect of a modern SIEM, we believe, is cloud native scalability. So you know, we spend organizations spend far too much money on what I would call the security engineering aspects of legacy SIEMs. So making sure that they scale or adapting them to new workloads, or maybe, you know, you've as an organization just acquired a new organization. With a cloud native approach that we take here at Sumo Logic, all of the the greatness of cloud applications, so that ability to scale elastically to your data ingest and workload, is available to you. We bring all of this together. So our SIEM, which provides an analyst interface, is built on top of the underlying Sumo Logic platform, which is able not only to collect log data, but also other teams within the organization, your development teams, your DevOps teams can use the product to analyze other types of data sources, in addition to logs, metrics data, maybe application tracing data. So we bring all of that together under a single cloud native SaaS applications. And this really provides you the best of both worlds. So you have both a powerful threat hunting search interface that you can use to slice and dice the raw log data, and perform your threat hunting, as well as providing you with this analyst or security analyst focused console that helps drive the workflow that you need as part of your security operations center. Okay, so let's switch over now and take a look at the product. So what you see here now is what we call the head-up display. So this is all about situational awareness. And what you see in the middle of the screen, what we call the Insight Radar, is charting 3 key values, and the values that you see it charting over time are in the top left-hand side here. So this outer ring charts the value of records over time. So records are normalized version of the log data. So as when you're collecting your log data within the Sumo Logic platform, you can choose which sources that you want to send for correlation. When those sources are sent for correlation, the first thing that Cloud SIEM does is to normalize that log data. So this is a process that all SIEM products do, and it just simply allows you to compare log data from different device sources. So all SIEMs do that, as we can see in the 24-hour period that we're currently looking at here. Our demo system has normalized somewhere around about 19 million records. The next statistic that you see here charted in the Insight Radar is this is the middle histogram here. These relate to what we call signals. Now, signals are essentially the threat detections, the correlations. Other SIEM tools might call them notables or events, or just simply correlated events, alerts maybe. We call them signals. They are the security detections, and in essence, they are the output of of a rules-based correlation layer. Again, something that the vast majority of SIEM products already use out there. And correlation has always been about data reduction. It's all about elevating the needle out of the needle stack, or the haystack originally. It's become a needle stack over time, quite simply because this rules-based correlation approach is really not kept up with the volume and the diversity of log sources. And consequently, your security operations teams, as part of that tier 1 alert triage, are really been getting bogged down in trying to understand what happens with these detections. So that's the bad news. The good news is, with Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM product, we add an additional layer of correlation that we call insights. And as you can see here, we've further reduced the detections that we see in our 85,000 signals. And from that, we've lifted out a collection of 4 groups of signals, groups of detections that we call insights, which represent the most threatening risks to your organization. And those insights are charted here on the inner ring as these little triangles. Obviously, the color is indicative of the state. So new insights appear in red, and other colors are used to represent other states. But this is essentially fully automated alert triage. These are pre-baked incidents which are ready for your incident responders or your threat hunters to go to work on. So let's go and take a look at these. So what we've done now is we've drilled into our Insight Cabana here. So this is something that if you run a large SOC, a SOC manager can maybe come in here and use to assign insights to particular teams. Or what we're doing here is we're organizing our SOC along the lines of these stages, a bit like a ticket, or the stages that you take a ticket through. And as we can see here, we have one new insight. You can see the insights given an ID, a label, so insight 2573, and then the actual naming of the insight, so exfiltration with command and control. This happens again all automatically, but it happens by actually understanding the MITRE attack tactics that the underlying detections are associated with. So as we can see here, this particular insight 2573, it has a dwell time of 13 days. So in other words, what happened is this incident started 13 days ago, and it collects together 5 individual detections. So let's drill in and take a look at these individual detections. Now, what I just showed you there, that was Sumo Logic's alert triage. So there's no people huddling around screens. There's no, tedious search pivot as you take an alert and try and associate it with other alerts. That is tier 1 alert triage. That is the problem that most SOCs are dying under the load of today. And as you can see, it happens completely and totally transparently and automatically with Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM here. So what we've done is we've joined together these 5 unique signals. So we're deduplicating And the signals, as you can see here, are charted across this timeline. So the timeline, as you can see, spans multiple days. So this is one of the challenges with rules-based correlation, is it's actually very poor at looking for related logs or normalized logs over an extended period of time, right? Most rule engines really struggle to correlate data over more than a few hours. Unfortunately, the bad guys know this, and they're able to very adeptly fly under the radar just by keeping it low and slow, doing maybe their initial access and then going away for a few days and then coming back and attempting to expand the foothold they have in your environment. But as you can see here, from an analyst perspective, it's very easy to get that 50,000-foot view, that overview of the progression of an attack over multiple days. By default, Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM looks back over 2 weeks. It can be a longer period if you want it to be, but it really allows you as an analyst to get that holistic picture of a particular incident right from the beginning all the way through as it progresses through the organization. The information that you see here on the left-hand side is really all related to workflowing this insight. So it might well be that as you begin to analyze the signals, the detections, that you realize that this is something maybe you want to send out to your security orchestration and remediation product. Maybe you want to blast it out to Teams or Slack, whatever you guys use for your workflow. But this allows you to take external actions on the insight. As a good analyst, I probably obviously want to go ahead and tell my colleagues that I've started working on it. You can go ahead and assign insights to teams. So if you've got a tiering in a large SOC, you can leverage that as well. I've just, as you've seen there, assigned it to myself. One of the key things we do with insights is we group together related detections around what we call the entity. And in this particular example here, we see the entity is a username. The username Rico Dynamite, and if I mouse over that, as we can see, we can pull up here some more information about Rico. We can see that he's in the cloud services department. If we need to write him an email, his email address is readily available there. But again, this is really all about orientating your analysts at the beginning of their investigation, just understanding a little bit about who the, in this case, the individual involved is. We have some statistics around, as we saw earlier, the number of signals we're collecting, when the most recent signal was last seen, and I've already mentioned the dwell time. So this ability of insights to look over automatically over an extended period of time and defeat your threat actors that are trying to be low and slow and stay under the radar. The other things that you see here are some are actually MITRE ATT&CK tactics. So as I mentioned, each and every one of our detections, signals that we call them, is related to both MITRE ATT&CK tactics and also techniques as well, and they bubble up from the underlying signals into the insight. So we can see here that tactic, the exfiltration and command and control tactic were associated with the underlying data. If I want to, maybe if I'm new to the SOC, or maybe I'm new to MITRE ATT&CK, then I can very easily pivot out to the MITRE website and pick up some more information on that. Or perhaps, you know, running in a mature SOC, you guys have already established your own taxonomy for understanding incidents as part of the SOC, and maybe you just want to apply your own tags. And the tags are a very simple but powerful mechanism. It really allows you to go back in future, look back over your incidents, analyze them, see where, you know, the overarching threats coming from. And then finally, from a workflow perspective, obviously you need to be able to keep notes, which you're able to do at the bottom here. As you obviously make your notes, your colleagues, if you're working in shift, for example, can come in and see where you've got to, as well as you can get some history of the insight as well. Okay, so back to the main part of the screen here. This is obviously where you're going to be spending the majority of your time as an analyst, looking through data. Each of the individual signals is represented by one of these boxes here. You can declutter the screen if you like, make it simpler to look at each of the individual signals or some of the detail from each of the individual signals, or you can expand it out. And each of these values that you see here, you can choose from the underlying log data, you can choose to essentially favorite them. So if we just take a second to drill into the details of this first signal here, this AWS guard duty alert, what you can see here is obviously some text about why this alert fired or why this detection fired. You can see essentially the basis of the detection, so what was matched to trigger this particular correlation rule and generate the signal. Obviously you have the entity that we saw earlier with the pop-up. You're also able, if you scroll down, to see all of the detail from the original alerts. So this is actually the part of the signal that where you choose these, what gets favorited. So as we see here, each of these fields that have a star next to them are elevated to the top summary view. But if you need all of the detail, you can scroll all the way down to this extracted fields section here. And this is where you're going to see all of the original data that appeared in this particular case as part of the guard duty alert. You can also get the full, in this case, JSON as its guard duty from under the full details as well. Good. So obviously, as I run through my investigation, it may well be I want to step through each of the individual signals. I can use these little controls at the top of the timeline here to step through each of the signals and perform my investigation. And then at the end of that process, what I'm going to do is obviously complete my investigation. If we need to mitigate or remediate, then obviously we've performed those actions. So in this particular case, we'd say this was resolved, and let's say that we've recovered the account. And these obviously the statuses, but also the additional comments and the resolution here are helpful again when you're looking back, trying to understand from a management perspective about where you're spending the majority of your time in security operations, remediating your incidents. And all of those statistics obviously enable us to keep these key metrics that you see on the head-up display here around the time to detect and respond and remediate incidents. So yeah, that was really it from a product perspective. Let's switch now back to just one or two slides, and then we're going to do some questions and answers. So obviously everything I've shown you so far here is product, right? But security operations is not just about products, it's about process and people as well. And here at Sumo Logic, we have a professional services team, which is obviously available to support your deployments. We also offer premium support, which features a named technical account manager. And finally, we have what we call Sumo Logic's Spec Ops or Special Operations offering. And these guys are a hand-picked team of elite cyber analysts from some of the top organizations worldwide, a mixture of commercial and intelligence and governmental organizations. But these guys are available on demand as an extension of your team, of your security operations team, to help you guys deal with incidents or get the best out of Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM. So they have a really immense experience and deep knowledge of the threat landscape, which is obviously available to our customers. So yeah, questions. Let me bring up the question and answer screen here. So yes, feel free to, as we're answering these questions, post any new questions in the question and answer box. Here we go. Okay, so so what type of data can I bring into Sumo Logic SIEM? So Essentially, pretty much any log data, any human readable machine generated log data can be brought into Sumo Logic SIEM, normalized, and then correlated with the other log sources. Obviously, on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, the platform itself supports other types of data, not just log data, but we're also able to ingest and process metric data and application tracing data as well. So thank you, that was a good question. Next question was, do we integrate with CrowdStrike? Absolutely, we integrate with the vast majority of the leading security vendors available on the market, including CrowdStrike and a number of the other EDR vendors as well. So good question, thank you very much for that. Let's see here. So how do we charge for the Sumo Logic platform? So basically the product's licensed based on your ingest, your data ingest rate. The volume of log data that you're sending into the Sumo Logic platform. The great thing about it though is that we only charge once for the data as it's ingested into the platform. So if you have some data sources, for example, that your DevOps team are already ingesting into Sumo Logic platform, maybe to monitor one of your critical applications, or maybe to support a business operations type dashboard, then that data is already within Sumo Logic. It's already paid for, if you like, and it's available for correlation within the Cloud SIEM product, as it's already available in the platform. So I guess probably final question here is, how much does it cost? So sorry, let me just bring up here. So yeah, so basically, if you've got questions on pricing, we'd love you to reach out to our sales team. They can provide you with some more detail on pricing, obviously understand a little bit about what you're trying to achieve, but you can also find the basic pricing on our website under the pricing page. But yeah, we use a very unique credit-based model, which allows you to essentially burst, so ingest much higher peaks of data, and at the same time not pay for troughs where you're not ingesting data. So it's a very, very flexible model that really does away with some of the problems of a fixed ingest-based model. Good. Okay. Well, thanks very much. They were great questions there. Just a final, again, call out to you guys to please, if you're interested, if what you've seen here has resonated this morning, please connect to the website, the URL that you see on the screen there, and register for our Modern SOC Summit, which is occurring on June the 8th and 9th. As I mentioned, it's going to be part training, part lectures. You'll hear from obviously Sumo Logic employees, as well as our partners, and also some security industry dignitaries and respected speakers as well. So yeah, go ahead, register for that. We'd love to have you come and join the Modern SOC Summit. And then also the other thing I'll just quickly add is, if you guys have found some value from the demo today and you've got some interest in looking at metric data, please register for, you've still got a bit of time to register for our observability webinar, which will be happening tomorrow. So yeah, so go ahead and register for that, and we'll see you again tomorrow for observability. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and yeah, have a great rest of the day, and we're looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys at the Modern SOC Summit in June. So cheerio, and take care of yourselves.